Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWire TV video interview. I'm joined today by Vinayak Sreedhar. He's ManageEngine's dedicated country manager for Australia and New Zealand, and we're here at the launch of the new Zoho and ManageEngine headquarters in Parramatta, the second vibrant CBD of Sydney that has been here for decades. So, Vinayak, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me here today. And I'm glad you could be part of a very important milestone today, which is opening up of the first ManageEngine office here in Australia.
Yeah, well, I filmed the entire event. I urge people to watch it. It'll be embedded into the same article this video appears in. But Vinayak, thank you for taking the time. And can you please briefly recap ManageEngine's mission and the value that you bring to customers locally and globally in 2026?
Yes, so ManageEngine, essentially what we do is we simplify your IT management, right? We cut through the noise and help you manage IT better. Traditionally, what, a lot of the companies that were managing IT had a very siloed approach to IT management, where you had multiple different products handling different parts of your IT.
A lot of complexity there, unnecessary.
Yeah. So, we kind of cut through the noise, and what we do offer is a simplified, unified platform to manage your IT end to end. So that's it. Just to make it very simple. That's what I wanted. We make IT simple.
We wanted a brief recap. Now, you were part of ManageEngine back in 2010 in India.
Yeah.
Then you moved to Asia Pacific in 2014. You were there for 4 or 5 years. And then in 2019, you became the ManageEngine country manager in Australia and New Zealand. And that was before you had this dedicated office. So when you first stepped into that role 6 years ago, what did the ANZ operation actually look like then? And what's changed most in that time?
So when I did come in, early 2019, what I did see was that there was absolutely, kind of a market which required a lot of local presence, required feet on street, right? Required people to assist our customers with product level implementation, configuration, the services part. And to help us tide over all these challenges, right? We knew that we had to expand and grow our channel team here. And COVID did set us back by a couple of years.
It set everybody back.
So the best laid plans got, temporarily curtailed.
But during that time, we had the launch of ChatGPT in November 2022, so it wasn't all bad.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. So, so what I did see was it required a very personalized approach in this market, right? We couldn't remote control it from different parts of the globe. We needed to have a local team. We need to hire locally, have local, folks, local team members handling our larger customer facing roles, be it sales, pre-sales, customer success, marketing, right? All of that, right? So that's what we did over the last few years. So we have kind of built a very strong local team to manage and to handle the ANZ customer base.
And of course now we have AI, which is accelerating everything, and that's another big part of the big change.
Right.
Now, your own research in 2025, your AI study showed that 63% of ANZ IT decision makers felt that they couldn't afford to ignore AI, but 57% felt anxious about actually integrating it. So that's a pretty even split between urgency and fear. So what's actually, do you think, holding people back? And where do you see the anxiety sitting hardest for those people wanting to take advantage of AI, but I guess after decades of Terminator movies showing that robots, physical AI is going to destroy the world, there's people are worried, but that fear is also dissipating pretty fast as people are seeing how good AI is.
Yes, I guess a lot of the anxiety and fear, right, is coming from an enterprise-grade customer, right? Because their challenges are very different from how you would use AI in your personal life, right? Because there has to be guardrails, right, to AI, right?
Oh, sure.
A couple of points here, right? One, security. Like, what access does this platform to have? Do they have with your own data, right? With your own proprietary data, right? So you need to have very good governance on it, and also what access controls that these tools have. So I think the anxiety stems from the fact that how do I go incorporate AI in a very safe, secure manner, and what kind of access do I provide these platforms, and how do I put guardrails, right, within the larger organization, right? I guess this was the anxiety that I kind of get from a lot of the customers, right, initially, that when ChatGPT and the likes of that came to the market. I think that's the major thing. But I think today a lot of people see the benefits, the productivity increase, right? Especially from a development perspective, right?
No,
it's got heaps, right? Maybe 10x, right? Bare minimum, right?
Maybe 100x.
Yeah,
It's incredible. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So it's changed the game, right? Yeah.
Now, you said before that AI adoption in Australia and New Zealand is slower compared to the rest of the world. So is that caution, or is it something structural about how IT teams here are set up?
I think right, it's a bit of both. There is definitely a caution, right? That they are approaching it right in probably in a more streamlined manner. Like I said, ensuring the guardrails are there, and also I think there is a little fear of how it's going to kind of impact them, right? And also probably right you have to kind of get a buy-in from the larger workforce, right, and elevate any fears that they might have, right, on AI, right. So I think these are the areas that they have to go through before they get a buy-in from the larger team, right, to go ahead and adopt AI. So it's a bit of both, but we see that's changing now, right, right, because now people realize that
it's changing fast.
It's inevitable that you are going to go into that space. Right?
What AI has done since just October last year, when a lot of companies were putting agentic AI into their platforms, and then 6 months later, I mean, we were seeing some truly seismic shifts, and what's going to happen in 6 months' time hence? I mean, let alone 12 or 24 months.
6 months, even weeks, right?
Yeah.
With what's happening in Claude, I think yesterday they had a major release, right? It's crazy, right? I think things are going so fast in that space, it's hard to keep up, right? So 6 months is, I think, too long a timeline, right? Things are moving at like weeks pace, right? Probably days pace in some of the
I don't think we've seen this kind of advancement before. We thought things were fast when the internet came along, but this is eclipsing that.
Yeah.
So ManageEngine recorded a 40% year-on-year cloud growth in ANZ. That's a serious number for a product suite that built its reputation on-prem. What's pulling enterprise IT managers towards the cloud version? And are you seeing whole operations shift, or is it more of a gradual product-by-product move?
See, the cloud adoption is a no-brainer, right? Because Australia is a cloud-heavy market, right? And it's a lot more easy to manage, right, when you have solutions on the cloud, right?
And New Zealand, of course, is famously the land of the long white cloud.
So right, so what we have seen is, since we've been in the market from late 2000s, right? Those days obviously you had a more on-prem base, right? So we have a good base of on-prem customers, right, which we developed before the cloud acceleration started. So what we see is a lot of those customers today are moving to the cloud because it's a lot easier to manage, it's more secure, right? It's more cost-effective probably, and also right the ease of maintaining software, right, and not have the hassle of hardware and other related management costs and everything, right? It's a no-brainer, right? So
and of course people are doing hybrid as well, right? They're doing the best of both worlds where they see
ManageEngine. Actually we are clear that we have both strategies, right? We pursue an on-prem as well as a cloud strategy. Although Australia is a cloud-heavy market, there are pockets of economies where it's fully on-prem still. And so we kind of place our bets on both sides. So one of the few vendors who do that, actually, because a lot of vendors today only have a cloud strategy.
Yeah.
So
Now you've built a network of over 100 partners in Australia and New Zealand, including system integrators and MSPs. How has that partner ecosystem shaped the way ManageEngine sells into ANZ enterprises? And is the channel doing something here that direct sales isn't?
See, what we realized long back was that for us to grow in the ANZ market, we need to have a strong channel base, right? We realized that it's very difficult to do it by ourselves, right? And we needed to have the channel simply because they have the relationships, right?
Yeah.
They hold the last mile connections with most of the customers.
And those customers trust those.
They trust them, right? And this is built over time, right? That trust and that relationships, right? So we have, always been very channel friendly. And we understood the importance of channel, and channel can open up doors, right, in terms of mid-enterprise, enterprise, right? These are doors which are not easy for us as an OEM to just walk into. So it is you can't fathom doing business in this country without a strong channel team, and that's what we have done. And over the period of last, say, 10 years, we have developed very strong channel partners, be it be resellers, be it be SIs, GSIs, MSPs, distributors, you name it, right? We have a very strong base there.
It's clearly been a very successful strategy.
Yes.
Now, you chose Parramatta for the new office. Now, Parramatta has been a second CBD for Sydney for decades, if not, more than 100 years. And it's a growing tech corridor.
Yeah.
But it's a deliberate move away from the traditional CBD. So what was behind that decision, and what does it mean for the kind of team that you're building?
See, primarily when we looked at where to set up base, right, couple of points, we kind of, had in mind. One, right, our staff, right, where are they based out of, right? How easy is it for them to come in and go in, right? Two, right, obviously the costs, right, and long term, right, whatever we do long term, right. So we kind of figured that a lot of people are nearby. We are mostly, most of our staff, I won't say everyone, but most of them are near Parramatta, the western parts of Sydney, right. Two, right, we wanted a space where we can grow more, right, in the future, have room for expansion, so to speak. Some of the properties we saw in other parts of the city, probably it was a lot difficult to probably expand down the line. And also, right, I think, from a cost effective basis, right, Parramatta offers a fantastic value. And a lot of our customers, our partners, our key collaborators are all nearby, right? And the connectivity is fantastic, right? Getting into the main CBD or going to North Sydney or the other business hubs.
There's trains, there's ferries, there's buses, there's the roads, there's everything.
And very soon the metro, right?
Yeah.
So
and it's well connected with fibre and everything else that you need.
Absolutely, yeah.
ManageEngine covers a huge surface area: networks, servers, security, service desks, Active Directory, endpoints, and more. So when an Australian enterprise comes to you for the first time, where do they usually start, and how does the conversation expand from there?
Most of the starting point for us is in the IT service management platform, right? So people come to us and say, how do I have a platform for my ticketing needs, right? It starts with IT ticketing, then it moves to the other areas like your finance, your HR, right? Other parts of the business, right? They want a centralized platform to do the entire ticketing, right? And that has kind of grown into a larger platform to kind of effectively do their kind of workflow management, right? Build intelligent dashboards, their intelligent workflows, right? And that's traditionally been the entry point for ManageEngine, right? It's been our service desk product, right? And from there, what we see is that the adoption of the other ManageEngine products happens organically. When they go into the product, explore the features, they slowly get introduced to device management, right? Then infrastructure monitoring, right? It all comes down the line, right? But the entry point is the service management platform that we offer.
And the fact that people do take on more and more the suite, I mean, that's such a great validation of the way that you guys are building your business, and the quality you put behind it, the AI features are integrated. They wouldn't be doing that if they weren't happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Our retention is quite high, right? We find most of our customers stay with us long term. That's also testament to we doing something right on the product and the support side, right? And our customer count has always increased over the years, and today we have a vast customer base spanning across industries, services, and across the country.
And part of that customer base is Australian industry federations and government bodies, and in growing your ManageEngine enterprise ecosystem. So what does that engagement look like with those organisations in practice, and is the public sector here becoming a bigger part of the ManageEngine story?
Definitely, right? Moving forward, right? As a company of our stature, right, we are looking to expand to the enterprise and the mid enterprise, right? And government, public sector, federal, right, is a huge market, right? We have customers in that space, but we want to have a dedicated focus, right? That requires us having strong partners, right, who have a lot of know-how in this space
and existing relationships.
Absolutely, right? And working with government is a different ball game altogether. There's a different approach that we need to take, which we are building a team, right? And we also want to build strong individuals with a background from public sector to do the account management and the sales, right, from that perspective. So we're looking at maybe down the line having folks in that space, but definitely government is a very important vertical that we want to expand further into, and having the right partners who can unlock this vertical for us is what we are really kind of betting on.
Sure. Well, there's 5 state and territory, state governments, and then you've got Canberra. I'm sure that's where I'm from. Won't be surprised to see a ManageEngine office out there soon.
Yeah.
Now, without giving me your final messages yet, because I'll ask you about that in a moment, is there anything else about ManageEngine that we need to know that you haven't already discussed?
See, today, right, ManageEngine is a one-stop shop for all your IT needs, right? People don't probably realize the bandwidth of products that we've got. People know us for 1 or 2 products, but actually we've got over 60 enterprise-ready products, right? So it's one-stop shop for all your IT needs, right? And you can kind of come into the ManageEngine portfolio, and you have essentially one sales guy, one team that you deal with, right? And there's an ease of doing business, right? Long term, right? And so I would probably put it in this way that ManageEngine, right, is your one-stop shop for all IT needs.
So my third last question is to ask if you could please share a memory of your first personal computer.
Oh yeah, right. I can't forget that, right? It was a Compaq, was it? I don't know.
Compaq was an IBM clone.
Was it? I don't know. Yeah, a laptop, right? Way back, I don't know, maybe when I was in the 7th or 8th grade, right? I still remember that Windows 95. The MS Paint and the mouse and Minesweeper and Solitaire and all that, right? So yeah, absolutely, right. It was very fascinating back in the days, and dial-up internet and the modem and connecting and the whole the sound of you getting connected to the internet. Nostalgic memories.
You were lucky because I finished year 12 in 1992. Okay. I was dreaming of having a laptop, but they were just way too expensive.
When I was growing up. It was not my laptop.
But by 95 it was much more accessible, and we had Windows 95, which is a huge game changer.
I think that changed the game.
It did. So my second last question is to ask if you could please share some of the best advice you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
A lot of advice, but then one thing that I did kind of, I keep kind of close to my heart is that end of the day, right, that where I find the success comes from is just showing up every day, right, and grinding away, right, and nothing can replace that, right.
Consistent and persistent with tenacity.
So when you look at our own journey, right, that's what I was saying today a little earlier, right. You need to have a vision. You need to persevere and you need to execute, right? You need all three, right? End of the day, execution also matters. So would say that would be it.
So Vinayak, what is your final message for the viewers, listeners, and the readers at iTWire?
I hope now people know about ManageEngine. I hope people know the larger portfolio that we carry, right? And now we have a complete local team here. We're expanding our team here, right? And we intend to kind of go further into the Australian market. And we are here long term. And you can, as a customer or as a partner, right? You can bet your business on us. And we have we have a long legacy, almost 2 decades. We've been in the market. And we continue to kind of service that, move into the future as well.
Well, Vinayak Sreedhar, ManageEngine's ANZ Country Manager, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations on the opening of your new Parramatta headquarters, and I do look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.